I think of my studio as sort of a hub within a larger system. So it's different kinds of forces come together. Either it's like a productive kind of actually producing objects. It's also where I tend to write. It's also where I plan out exhibitions. It's where studio visits happen. It's things like that. So I think of it as kind of a place where different kind of energies or forces are sort of condensed and come together and produce a kind of outcome. And the variety of outcomes, there's a range of outcomes that it produces. My name is Walead Beshty. I live in Los Angeles, and I'm an artist. Art making is sort of intertwined for me, with a variety of different sort of pursuits. I don't really see it as discrete necessarily. I write, I organize exhibitions, I teach, although I recently stopped. And I see all of that as kind of intertwined, because art I would describe as a social discourse. To describe my practice, it's kind of, I find it a little bit difficult, because it's, I would say that it encompasses a lot of things that people don't traditionally describe as necessarily an art practice or an artist's practice, or not within the sort of the umbrella of what you would call an art practice. The studio itself is about like 8,500 square feet on a 1,400 square foot lot, and the main room has kind of tall ceilings. I just got finished organizing a show for the Hessel Museum called The Picture Industry, which was sort of a historical show dealing with the history of technical images, 1850 to the present. And there is a large anthology that's sort of attached to it that I'm editing. It's the second project a book project that I'm editing. So it's about 100 different texts spanning the same time period. So right now in my studio are printouts of all of the text for the book, kind of plastered all over the walls. Yeah, about, like 7 feet high, and then spanning the entire space. So right now I'm not sure what it looks like, but it might not look much like a studio. It looks a little like manic. Lots of things tacked to the walls here. The interior of my studio looks like it's a renovated metal stamping business. It was a mom and pop metal stampers. And it has a lot of drywall and is kind of warehouse-like, yeah. It's big, but rent in LA is pretty reasonable. And that's one of the nice things about Los Angeles, is that there's space. I'm on the corner of Union Pacific and La Puerta, and La Puerta is a sort of largely residential street, and then Union Pacific is actually named that for the railroad company, and it's where the main rails, the distribution network, so all these factories were sort of situated along the rail lines. So that's all light industrial, and then on the hubs are all residential. So it's nice because there's actually families, there's actually kind of like a community, and it's not just sort of a barren, dead zone. I have a lot of chairs. I try to have a lot of chairs around. So there's chairs everywhere. I wish I had beds everywhere like Judd. I think that's a good idea. But I tend not to be that productive when I'm laying down, so I don't think that would work for me. There is a bed. There's kind of a small apartment there. When I'm laying in that bed, no, nothing's being done. I would say a good day is a day that feels very focused, where where there's not too much distraction. Yeah, where things seem to be running efficiently. I mean, those are very general terms, but yeah, when it feels like everything is feels like it's focused on a particular outcome, because it's a place where like the I have this sort of luxury of trying to focus. So when that doesn't really work, it feels like squandered in some sense. A bad day would be like disorganized and sort of disrupted. Any day that I get to spend there is, generally speaking, a pretty good day. My library's there, so there's I think I have about like 8,000 or 9,000 books there. And otherwise, I have a darkroom there. So it's mostly, I don't keep a lot of personal items around, just really what I'm working on. And there's enough kind of extraneous or the projects, especially with regard to this show, there were so many, it spans so many different types of materials, there were so many things around that to bring other things in would be just sort of distracting. So, so it's mostly things that are very targeted towards whatever project is at hand. Do I have any tricks to get work done in the studio? I don't think I have any tricks. Anything that I do there is technically production, so really I can do whatever I want, and I feel like it's all part of the same thing. Well, I tend to work in the studio, almost every day of the week. I'll take days off here and there, kind of at random, but, I don't keep a very fixed schedule. Sometimes I work late, sometimes I go in early, and sometimes I do a half day. So it's, I like that kind of flexibility and the adaptability of it. The conditions under which I work, I basically listen to 3 things when I'm there, just so that I can tune stuff out. One would be the 1955 Glenn Gould Goldberg variations, because I've just heard it so much that there's no thinking involved in listening to it. And I also love his breathing on it, which is sort of nice to hear on stereo. Moondog, I listen to. Viking of Fifth Avenue, and the greatest hits of Enya. And they drive my employees insane. Especially Enya gets a lot of protest. I do studio visits. I never really thought to hide anything. Maybe that's a good idea. Maybe I should hide things. I've been told I'm not very tactical about studio visits, that people have a whole drama of how they unveil what's going on, but I don't have a good head for the dramatic or the narrative either. I tend to avoid both. I think every studio is sort of connected to that's the upside of being an artist, is that you can construct the way that you live your life in the way that's the most efficient for yourself. So a studio can be, like a cooktop and a bed, or it can be an expansive warehouse, or it could be whatever, and it's whatever suits how you wanna conduct yourself in your professional life. So that flexibility, I think, is important.